There is a Black Sea on this planet so lethal that a human submerged in it for just a few minutes at the wrong depth would begin to lose the ability to breathe, not because of drowning, but because the water itself would shut down the body's ability to use oxygen, leading to a rapid and irreversible collapse. This is not because of extreme pressure, and it's not because of freezing temperatures. It's because this water contains a chemical environment that makes complex life impossible. And it gets worse. This region is so toxic that not even a bull shark, one of the most adaptable predators in the ocean, an animal capable of surviving in rivers, murky waters, and low oxygen environments, can survive there. No matter how strong it is, no matter how well adapted it is, once it crosses a certain depth, survival is no longer possible. This environment is defined by three key factors: the complete absence of oxygen, the presence of highly toxic compounds dissolved in the water, and a chemical balance that turns the ocean into something closer to poison than habitat. And in today's episode, you're going to discover where this place is located, how it formed, and why, below a certain depth, it becomes one of the most lethal environments on Earth, a place where even one of the ocean's most resilient predators has absolutely no chance of survival. If you want to discover where this place is and what makes it so deadly, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on TV, just click the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. From the surface, this place behaves like a normal sea, with ships crossing it, fish moving near the top, and no visible sign that anything below is different, creating a false sense of safety that hides what is actually happening just a few hundred meters down. As you begin to descend, the water continues to feel stable and unchanged, allowing movement without resistance and giving no immediate indication that you are entering a completely different environment, which is exactly what makes this transition so dangerous. This region is structured in layers, and while the upper layer still supports life in a familiar way, a deeper layer exists where the conditions shift into something far more hostile, creating a boundary that cannot be seen, detected, or avoided through instinct. At a certain depth, the water no longer functions as a living system because the elements required to sustain complex life are no longer present in sufficient levels, while other substances begin to dominate the environment and alter the chemistry of the water itself. As this transition happens, the ability to survive is removed not through sudden impact, but through a gradual loss of the conditions that every large organism depends on to stay alive. The bull shark is one of the most adaptable predators in the ocean, known for its ability to survive in environments that would challenge most other large marine animals, which is exactly why it becomes the perfect example to understand how extreme this place really is. Unlike most sharks, the bull shark has a unique biological system that allows it to move between saltwater and freshwater without losing balance, meaning it can leave the ocean, travel into rivers, and remain there for long periods while still functioning normally, something that very few large predators on Earth are capable of doing. This ability allows the bull shark to enter environments that are unstable, murky, and often low in oxygen, where visibility is poor and conditions are far from ideal, yet it continues to hunt, navigate, and survive with efficiency, showing a level of resilience that places it among the toughest predators in the marine world. It has been recorded hundreds of kilometers inland, far from the open ocean, adapting to changing conditions without depending on clear water, stable temperatures, or perfect oxygen levels, which makes it one of the most flexible hunters in existence. Because of this, the bull shark does not rely on a single type of environment to survive. It adjusts, it tolerates variation, and it continues operating even when conditions become difficult, which is why it is often seen as a predator that can handle extremes better than most. But even with all of these adaptations, there is still a limit. There is a point where the environment changes in a way that no longer allows adjustment, no longer allows tolerance, and no longer allows survival. Because what exists beyond that boundary is not just a harsher version of the ocean, but a completely different chemical environment. And when the bull shark reaches that depth, its ability to adapt is no longer enough, because the conditions it depends on to stay alive simply stop existing. At this stage, the water still behaves like a living system, allowing the shark to swim, navigate and function as it always has, but as it goes deeper, it begins to enter a layer where the chemistry of the water starts to change in a way that cannot be seen, only experienced. The first impact is subtle. The shark's body begins to react to a lower availability of oxygen in the water, forcing its system to work harder to extract what it needs, increasing effort without increasing results, creating a growing imbalance between what the body demands and what the environment can provide. As the descent continues, that imbalance becomes stronger. The shark is still moving, still alive, but its efficiency begins to drop, its movements become slightly slower, and its ability to maintain normal function starts to weaken, not because of injury or fatigue, but because the environment is no longer supporting its basic biological processes. At this depth, something else is already present in the water. A chemical that does not just replace oxygen, but actively interferes with the body's ability to use it, affecting cells at a fundamental level and disrupting the process that keeps the animal alive. Energy production drops, coordination weakens, and the systems that once made it one of the most effective predators in the ocean start to collapse, step by step, without any external attack. And the most dangerous part is that there is no escape instinct strong enough to solve this, because by the time the shark reaches this layer, the process has already started, and the deeper it goes, the faster that collapse accelerates. What makes this place truly lethal is not something you can see, and not something you can escape from once you reach it, because the danger is built into the chemistry of the water itself, and it works at a level that affects every living cell in the body. Below a certain depth, oxygen is no longer present in the water in any usable amount, which already creates a serious problem for any large animal, because without oxygen, the body cannot produce the energy it needs to survive. But in this environment, the situation becomes even worse. The water is filled with a chemical called hydrogen sulfide. This compound is highly toxic, and instead of supporting life, it actively disrupts the process that allows cells to use oxygen, meaning that even if small traces of oxygen were available, the body would not be able to use it properly. In simple terms, this chemical shuts down the system that produces energy inside living cells. For a bull shark, this is catastrophic. The shark depends on a constant flow of oxygen through its gills to keep its muscles active, its brain functioning, and its body moving efficiently. But as it enters this layer, the water passing through its gills no longer provides what it needs, and at the same time, it introduces a substance that interferes with its ability to stay alive. At first, the effects begin at a cellular level. Energy production drops, muscles lose efficiency, and coordination begins to weaken, not because the shark is injured, but because its cells are no longer able to generate the energy required to maintain normal function. As exposure continues, the impact becomes more severe. The shark can no longer sustain movement properly. Its systems begin to shut down, and the process accelerates rapidly, because this is not a condition the body can adapt to, and it is not something that can be reversed once it reaches a certain point. For a human, the effect would be just as fatal. Breathing would not solve the problem, because the issue is not simply the lack of oxygen, but the inability of the body to use it at a cellular level, which means that even if air were available, the system responsible for turning that oxygen into energy would be blocked. And once that process begins, survival is no longer possible, because the body is no longer capable of producing the energy required to stay alive. Located between Eastern Europe and Western Asia, the Black Sea is one of the most unusual bodies of water on Earth, not because of what happens on the surface, but because of what exists below it. The upper layer supports life, fish swim, ecosystems function, and everything appears stable, which is why, for a long time, nothing about it seemed unusual. But below a depth of around 150 to 200 meters, the entire environment changes. From that point down, oxygen disappears almost completely, and the water becomes saturated with hydrogen sulfide, creating a massive zone where complex life cannot survive. This layer covers almost the entire deep volume of the Black Sea, making it one of the largest anoxic environments on the planet. In this zone, there are no fish, no large predators, and no animals like the bull shark, because the conditions required for them to live simply do not exist there. The water itself becomes chemically hostile. Everything you saw before, the loss of oxygen, the presence of toxic compounds, the collapse of energy production, all of it happens here, continuously, across a vast region that extends for thousands of square kilometers. Above a certain depth, everything works the way we expect. Animals move, predators hunt, and the balance of the ecosystem continues. But just a few hundred meters below, that balance disappears completely, replaced by an environment where survival is no longer possible for anything large. The bull shark, one of the most adaptable predators in the world, can survive in rivers, in murky water, and in conditions that would limit most marine animals, yet even it has a boundary, and in this place that boundary is absolute. If the environment does not support